Have you ever noticed how many old piracy sites have quietly disappeared? If you've been on the internet for a while, you probably remember Napster, Pirate Bay, and all those free movie and music sites. Back in the late 90s and 2000s, it felt like everyone was using them. But today, they're often gone or hiding behind proxies. It's kind of strange when you think about it. A few years ago, we were sharing music and movies with a click, and now those avenues are shrinking. What changed? Let's kick a trip down memory lane first. The golden era of online piracy really kicked off around 1999 to 2001. Napster launched in 1999, invented by Sean Fanning, and it blew people's minds by letting them share MP3s directly. Soon after, other peer-to-peer networks like Canutella, Kazaa, LimeWire, and BearShare popped up. These let anyone swap files, mostly music, over the internet. Then in 2001, Bram Cohen invented BitTorrent, which revolutionized sharing large files. Instead of one person hosting a file, BitTorrent splits files into tiny pieces and lets users swap pieces in parallel. Sites like the Pirate Bay, founded in 2003, became hubs where people could search for torrents of movies, TV shows, games, and more. There were also cyberlockers and free streaming sites like 123 Movies, Putlocker, and Popcorn Time, a Netflix-style pirate app. Why did people flock to these sites? For one, it was free. In the 2000s, legal streaming barely existed outside of tech-savvy circles. If you wanted the latest movie or album, often the only quick way was piracy. In many countries, Hollywood films and Western TV shows weren't even available legally or were delayed by months or years. The internet made it easy to share content globally, so audiences from Europe to Asia to Latin America eagerly used pirate sites to watch or listen for free. Studies have shown that piracy rates tend to be highest in countries where incomes are lower and legal content is hard to get. For example, estimates suggest 91% of Russians would rather pirate content than pay, and over 2/3 of Indians have used illegal channels for music. In short, for people who want the content but face paywalls or geoblocks, piracy was often the practical alternative. It's like a frustrated fan's solution. If I can't buy it affordably, I'll find another way. By the mid-2000s, piracy was mainstream worldwide. Millions used torrent sites and streaming clones. Even people who otherwise had cable TV or legal CDs sometimes jumped online for convenience. Pirated music, movies, TV shows, and games were so common that it felt normal. In fact, when Napster crashed after big lawsuits in 2001-2002, many users simply moved to another service. When Pirate Bay was raided in 2006, it was down only a few days before coming back up on a new server. Piracy had a momentum of its own. Then things began to shift. Governments and industry started cracking down. Around the mid-2000s, governments realized this was a big problem for copyright holders. Trade groups like the U.S. Motion Picture Association, MPAA, formerly the MPAA, and RIAA for music, began aggressive legal campaigns. They lobbied for stronger laws like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the U.S. in 1998, which gave studios tools to fight piracy. Courts started issuing site blocking orders. For example, in 2012, the UK High Court ordered ISPs to block the Pirate Bay. That meant millions of Brits suddenly couldn't access Pirate Bay at all. Other countries passed similar laws. Meanwhile, law enforcement started seizing pirate platforms. The FBI and other agencies launched big operations. In January 2012, the feds shut down Mega Upload, a major cyberlocker, by raiding its servers and seizing domain names. In 2016, the DOJ took down Kick-Ass Torrents, a site that had 50 million visitors a month, by arresting its alleged founder and seizing its domains. The authorities even tracked down pirates through unexpected means. In the Kate case, they used legal iTunes purchase records to trace the owner's email address. After FBI announcements, patriotic takedown notices popped up on those domains telling visitors that the site had been seized by the US government. It wasn't just the US. International cooperation increased.
In 2016, Italy's financial police got a court injunction to block 152 pirate streaming sites in one swoop. More recently, an Italian operation called Switch Off in early 2026 knocked out a whole global IPTV piracy network, hitting key servers in several countries and disconnecting over 125,000 users. That raid was so massive, it even involves Eurojust, Europol, and Interpol, a sign that piracy is being treated like organized crime. In January 2026, US authorities working with Bulgarian officials seized 3 large pirate streaming domains on the same day Italian police cracked down on their IPTV ring. It was one of those quiet, coordinated actions. On paper, global copyright enforcement, but to users, it meant dozens of familiar websites suddenly went offline or displayed warning screens.
Behind the scenes, technology and strategy have improved. Rights holders hire anti-piracy firms that use automated crawlers and digital fingerprints to scan the internet for infringing content. They find new pirate sites within hours of launch. If a site pops up, they can send quick DMCA takedown notices to hosts and search engines. In some countries, notably Italy, new laws require ISPs and even VPN providers to block flagged sites within minutes. Cloudflare and other big infrastructure companies have even been fined when they refused to block pirates. Italy fined Cloudflare 14 million euros for not blocking pirate domains on its DNS service. Investigators also follow the money. They monitor advertising revenue and cryptocurrency flows to map out pirate operations. In the 2026 IPTV bust, police analyzed seized devices and crypto transactions for a year before pulling the trigger. All this means piracy networks have to be far more secretive and short-lived than before. Meanwhile, something else changed the game: streaming platforms. Services like Netflix, launched 2007, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, and countless others have given many people an easy, legal way to watch movies and shows at home, and they've been wildly popular. For many users, legal streaming beat piracy on convenience, as long as content was on those platforms. Indeed, around 2016, analysts noted that as Netflix and Spotify grew, traditional torrent traffic was declining. BitTorrent, once used for huge file sharing, was then reported to be under 5% of North American internet traffic. However, and here's the twist, streaming's own growth has had mixed effects. Initially, it did reduce piracy. Studies and surveys like one from New Zealand show that when good legal alternatives appear, many people stop pirating. One insight from a media executive was piracy isn't driven by lawbreakers, it's driven by people who can't easily or affordably get the content they want. Offer those people Netflix, and many of them will jump ship from the pirate sites. But the streaming world has also become more fragmented and pricey. In the early 2020s, the video market split into dozens of services: Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, you name it. To keep up, a viewer might need subscriptions to many of these, and the cost can exceed what an average family is willing to pay. Shows get licensed to different providers and even rotated off libraries, so you might spend more time searching than watching. In practice, this has left some viewers frustrated. Reporter Gabrielle V. Rindborg noted in The Guardian that by 2025, many fans felt streaming was too expensive and fragmented, so they returned to piracy for the first time in a decade. According to piracy tracker MUSO, global visits to pirate sites were lowest in 2020, about 130 billion visits that year, but then grew to 216 billion visits by 2024. Younger viewers are leading this rise. A recent Swedish survey found 25% of people aged 15 to 24 pirating in 2024. In fact, US industry figures report piracy jumped 12% by 2023 compared to 2019. One cause is clear. As The Verge points out, streaming services are more expensive than ever, and theatrical tickets have risen too.
For someone juggling multiple subscriptions, the cost or difficulty of finding a show legally can make a pirate site tempting again. That said, piracy today is very different than 10 years ago. It's become harder and riskier. Many famous torrent sites like EasyTV, YTS, or Kickass Torrents have been shut down or taken on cloak and dagger status. When one site goes away, another often pops up. Indeed, analysts describe this as a whack-a-mole game. Yet the replacements are typically smaller, less reliable, and sometimes stingy with content. The big central index of files on Pirate Bay still exists, often mirrored through proxies, but these days, even those torrents often rely on private user communities or semi-legal streaming add-ons. Free movie streaming sites still appear like old versions of 123 movies, but they can vanish overnight if owners fear lawsuits or if hosters yank their servers. Users also know the drill now. A pirate site is often laden with ads, pop-ups, or even malware. Downloading a movie from a shady site means punky search, fake download buttons, or grabbing sketchy VPNs that may leak your info. Many former pirates have turned to lower-risk options like Netflix because it's simply smoother. As one piracy scholar noted, when you raise the barriers for pirate sites through site blocks and warnings, users often find legal substitutes even if the legal route is slightly pricier. In practice, casual piracy is much less convenient. If it's blocked in your country, you need special DNS or VPN tricks to get around it.
Will piracy ever truly die out? Probably not completely. As long as people value entertainment and not all of it is free and instantly available, some form of piracy will find a way. There will always be that small group of pirate fans who like the thrill of finding a torrent, or who refuse to pay for each piece of content. And pirates adapt. As long as torrent and P2P exist, someone will use them, albeit in smaller numbers like indie software crackers or international fans of region-locked shows. New technology can even spawn new piracy methods. For example, some use message boards, Telegram channels, or decentralized networks to share content. So the cat and mouse game is likely to continue in some form. On the other hand, the future could see fewer traditional pirate sites. With tighter enforcement and growing legal alternatives, piracy may become a niche activity, much like how Napster eventually gave way to Spotify and Netflix. The industry is betting on that. By making content more accessible in more places, they hope to shrink piracy. The genie, however, is already out of the bottle. If services become unaffordable again, or if the next big hit is geo-locked, expect some folks will top the piracy seas once more. In conclusion, the landscape has certainly quieted from its wild heyday. The internet's high seas of piracy have been patrolled more heavily by authorities in recent years. Major platforms have been shut or moved underground, and legal streaming has captured much of the old pirate audience. But piracy hasn't disappeared, it's just evolving. It's now somewhat like an underground hobby rather than the mass phenomenon it once was. This shift tells us a bit about how people consume media today. Convenience, cost, and access matter tremendously. When content is easy and affordable, piracy drops. When it becomes hard to find or costly, some users will still look for that easy, free fix. The future of piracy will likely keep reflecting those pressures. It won't be dramatic or headline-grabbing, but more a gradual ebb and flow under the waves of the internet.